Everyone, Brent Gary, fractional CMO at Gary Consulting, and I'm here with Russell Pattinson of
Yes,
ATK
sir.
Ventures. And welcome to another episode of Stop Guessing, the podcast where we are focused on founders and how they can go from getting started to scaling. And Russell is a good friend of mine. He has an amazing life story, and there's a lot of things that I've been able to learn and grow my business from what he's been able to do multiple times. So without further ado, welcome to Stop Guessing.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you for this opportunity.
But I want to kind of jump back because, you have an amazing life story. And before we talk about, what you're doing right now with ATK Ventures, right?
Right.
Really want to help set the scene because you've had to rebuild
How I
and
got
pivot
there.
yourself, right? So,
Yep.
so where are you from? Let's start
So
with
I'm
that.
from Zimbabwe in Africa, but I didn't live under that flag. I lived under Rhodesia. I was in the war for 3 years, fighting communism, which was to the left and right, all over the world. They would send over troops into Rhodesia and abduct the black folks living in the land, train them, and then send them back to come and shoot and kill and take what the white people had. That's the bottom lay of it. I survived that by many graces of God that I learned I had later in my story.
Okay.
We were then probably persuaded to leave the country and seek elsewhere because the Rhodesian terrorist we were fighting was going to become the new Zimbabwe president. The terrorists we were chasing in the bush were going to become the new Zimbabwe army.
Okay.
So it didn't look good for us. So I then traveled to the United States. I had $1,000 to my name because that's all we're allowed to do,
Okay.
and started a life here.
All right.
Yeah, knowing nobody.
All right. So what did you do when you got to America?
So when I got to America, I was with who is now my ex-wife, who was a high school sweetheart. Her parents lived in Columbia Falls, Maine.
Okay.
And we went blueberry picking, and one of their friends owned a refrigeration business and found out I had just completed an apprenticeship back in Africa.
Okay.
So he asked me to come and help him out, in which case I did. But a month into the winter, I picked up a wrench on the roof and it stuck to my hands, and I said, this is not my place, coming from Africa.
Right.
So we were headed to Santa Barbara, Sacramento. The Rhodesian terrorist we were fighting was going to become the new Zimbabwe president. The terrorists we were chasing in the bush were going to become the new Zimbabwe army.
Okay.
So it didn't look good for us. So I then traveled to the United States. I had $1,000 to my name because that's all we're allowed to do,
Okay.
and started a life here.
All right.
Yeah, knowing nobody.
All right. So what did you do when you got to America?
So when I got to America, I was with who is now my ex-wife, who was a high school sweetheart. Her parents, work for yourself. But
Right.
I did. It didn't last too long. We had a 2-year-old son, and when he was about 3, we decided to call it quits. Then I realized I was too young to be in business because people that were working for me were my father's age.
Okay.
And I felt like I couldn't be telling an elder what to do and how to do it, although I had a 5-year apprenticeship behind me.
Right.
So ended up selling that, not selling it, closing the door, and going on a 10-year walkabout. That's when my life opened up.
Okay. So what is a walkabout then?
A walkabout is an Australian acronym, I think, when you just take off and you go.
Okay.
You don't know where you're going. It's not mapped. Okay. Nothing is organized. You just get in a car and go. And I did that with a few of my army buddies that were here living.
Okay.
We just got into a car first, and we first took off to Colorado to go to Vail and learn how to snowshoe.
So what did you learn from the walkabout?
From a walkabout, it gave me a lot, and I'm talking about a lot of experience of the people here. And trust me, from state to state, staying with her for a couple of months, we did, and then I found a job, worked for a refrigeration company, and after a while, we moved into an apartment of our own, stayed a little longer, a year or so. We found a house in Garland.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed there. Then we had a continual income of friends that knew we were here, and then they came, and they school buddies, school friends.
Okay. All right. So then how did you start a business?
Yes, I started the first, that was called Ajax Refrigeration.
Okay.
But I was very young, and it was actually her father pushed me into it.
Okay, so
I kind of wanted to do something. I have that inner fight, work for yourself. But I did. It didn't last too long. We had a 2-year-old son, and when he was about 3, we decided to call it quits. Then I realized I was too young to be in business, because people that were working for me were my father's age.
Okay.
And I felt like I couldn't be telling an elder what.
Okay. All right. So then, so at some point you were working in Alaska, and then you ended up starting, I guess, another business?
So it was a little ways after that. So when I was working in Alaska, we got to about the 5th year. In that meantime, I met back up with the lady who I'm married today with for 30 years.
Okay.
I met up with her, so I was commuting from Alaska back to Dallas.
Oh, wow.
And that gave me a chance to reconnect with all my friends, school buddies, and with her, although we were not romantic, we were building a friendship.
Okay.
And then that friendship turned to a relationship. And then that's when I got a hold of my buddy in Alaska, the company I was working with there, because we got picked up for 5 years.
Gotcha.
That's why it ended 6 weeks, and then they said, no, we want you guys to come on board.
Okay.
So it ended up 5 years. I came back because they were changing the rotation from a 1 week on to a 1 week off. Then I couldn't commute.
Okay.
Because I'd be here for 2 days and turning around going back, because it's 2 legs flight.
Okay. Right.
So I borrowed some money from my girlfriend at that point to buy my tools again. I wanted to become a paramedic, because up there I got to my EMT1 level.
Okay.
Because in the Arctic Circle, there's no services you are in.
Okay.
They pull off of the shifts up there. And I had to be in fire and EMT.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they sent me to Reno, 2 months fire school, only to learn I never wanted to be a fireman. But if we got called out on a fire, I would be part of the fire squad. And if somebody got hurt, I would be the EMT helping the PA on board. And we had a bunch of those accidents, so we responded. When we come home on R&R in Anchorage, Alaska, we would have to do 1 day in the ER and 1 day riding on the ambulance to get our hours to maintain our certifications.
Okay.
So when I decided to come back here, I thought I would pursue a job and try to be a paramedic, get back to that level. Because an EMT is the second chair mostly in ambulances.
Right.
But I wanted to get to the top and become a paramedic. So I learned that I visited 3 firehouses, and they said, you have to be a fireman, you rotate through the ambulance. So I scrubbed that. And so I figured I'd go back into my trade, which was air conditioning and refrigeration. I worked for a subcontractor for about a year. Then I decided, nope, I want to do it myself. So I started contracting to a company. And in the meantime, I was getting customers for myself. So I would run calls for myself and run calls for a subcontractor.
Okay.
Until it got too many calls for myself. And then I hired somebody. And then I got a double trunk yellow page ad. This is in '92. and it was $4,500, and I never had one solid customer.
Oh, wow.
And and I went home to my wife of today, and I said, "Hey, we're in the Yellow Pages, double trunk." She said, "How much?" $4,500. She said, "You don't even have one regular customer."
Right.
And I said, "Well, they told me I would." Thankfully, I never missed one payment in all my 32 years.
Okay. So, that's actually something I'm going to touch base on, because the people that, I work with, they have figured out how to, I guess, get clients, right? Stable business. So how did you go from, having a $4,500 ad with no leads to be, scaling up your business?
It was hard work.
Okay.
So I needed to get work quickly. So what I did is I hustled. I would park my truck on major streets like Greenville Avenue, walk down and hand out a card to every business and walk back up. That's about a 4-mile walk, I think.
Okay.
And I would do that all over. And then as I got a little bit more busier, I managed to get a little shop. And then I started pursuing like big box stores like AutoZone, all of those places where they had multiple locations. People liked that, and it grew. It wasn't easy, because the whole saying, if it was easy, everybody would be in business.
Right. Yeah.
And it finally grew, and over the years, I grew to 20 trucks.
Okay.
To realize that it wasn't more money in my pocket, it was more headaches, and it was a bigger figure.
Right.
But not necessarily more money in my pockets. I scaled it down. I had, when I finished up, I had 11 people in the company. I had 5 trucks, service trucks. I had an insulation truck and a duct cleaning truck.
Okay. And that's one of the things, like when I talk to people, founders, there's a common thread, especially in trades, but I think also whether you're doing professional services, is that they had to really do uncomfortable things.
Yes.
I was talking to a roofer, and he's just like, he knocked on doors to get that level of consistent business.
And I think, just stop at that. How many times do we get, when it rains and hails, do we get a roofer knocking? Don't be so rude. It's a job.
Is that right?
The poor kid is trying to make a living. At least open the door and let him introduce himself, take his card, give him what he set out to do, because that little kid's working hard.
Right. No, I mean, I've...
we forget that.
We do forget that. I think sometimes where I open the door, that just, I'm like, hey, I'm not interested. I already have a person, and they just, I feel there's a certain point where you have to say, okay, you know what? This person is not going to take the situation. But I get your point. Like, we all have to do uncomfortable things, right?
Absolutely.
And I think for me, one of the things I've learned is to do these face-to-faces, right?
Yes.
That's been a big, I think, door openers. It's not just having like a pitch or having the business cards. It's actually in someone that's in marketing, it's a trust-based relationship.
Yes.
If you need a plumber, you get a good referral. Are they available? Come on over. Or for me, it's a little bit different, because it takes a while to build a relationship.
And when we get to that part of my story, I can help out a lot, because I'm having to do that.
The same thing. That's a good point.
So I owned my business for 32 years in 2022. And that's when I met Talon and Lisa Koons. They own ATK Ventures.
And explain ATK Ventures, for us.
Yep. So ATK Ventures is a mergers and acquisitions advisory firm. Okay. So just in our terms, they can sell your business. Yeah. And I got said the same the other day, is would you go to court if you got sued without a lawyer?
No, I wouldn't.
No. So you are recommended, if you want to sell your business or if you want to do an exit plan, is engage yourself with a business broker, meaning ATK Ventures,
Okay.
because we will get you qualified buyers. We will facilitate the negotiation, and we are professional negotiators, so we don't leave money on the table.
Right.
We will then close the deal after we've given you a clean deal for your agreement, because in legal it's a whole lot different than just signing a piece of paper.
Right.
You can get yourself into trouble if you don't know what that agreement says.
Okay. So tell me some I guess misconceptions in terms of when people hear mergers and acquisitions, they think, big multi-million-dollar firms with lots of lawyers, like who do you deal with?
You can. So take me, let's go back to my story.
Mm-hmm.
So I got called in I think February, March of 22 by their office. I was a telemarketer, very nice guy. And just something in me said, I need to just take a look at what they have to say, because again, my lesson, every time I do something, I can put a lesson to it.
Right.
Because they asked me, am I ready to sell, or do I want to sell when I exit? What is my exit plan? And I said, well, yeah, I do have an exit plan. So anyway, they took my information. I met with talent and instantly became good friends. Today, he's a good family friend, him and Lisa. They're just super nice people. So he sat down and in the discovery call, he says, when do you think you want to exit? I said, about 3 years.
Okay.
About 3 years, because I had a very good friend who sold his lawn business, and he didn't do very well because he didn't wait 3 years to prep your business.
Okay.
And I call that know where you stand. So if you have to sell, you can do it right away, or you can have an exit plan. You don't know that.
Right.
I owned my company for 32 years, and I never knew that I could sell it tomorrow or exit 3 years. I was just bobbing along,
Okay.
Just being in business. So anyway, he said, okay, I said, yeah, let's take a look at it, see where I stand. And came to my office and gave him some P&Ls and balance sheets, and he looked through it and this and that, and he asked me some questions, and they weren't the right answers.
Okay.
And he said, well, you're not really ready to sell, but in 3 years we could probably get and do well with your company.
Okay.
And I said, okay, let's start working on that. So we started a plan. I had to behave, and I had to do things a little differently. Not too much. There were things I did right,
Right.
but there were a few more things I didn't do right. We got to November of 22. We only had 6 or 7 months. And then I was diagnosed with throat cancer.
Wow.
The surgeon, the oncologist, the radiologist all said, Russ, it's going to be a 2-year heal process. You can go back to work after 3 months, 4 months, but you're not going to do very well. You're not going to heal right.
Okay.
And having been 3 years free of cancer, they weren't wrong.
Right.
I could have gone to work, boy, but I needed some downtime. That stuff leaves you with things you've got to relearn and redo and stuff. So he managed to sell me, because there were 2 companies had continually called me through the year. We want to buy your business. We want to, we'll give you good money and stuff. And I kept saying no. 3 years' time, because I knew where I stood. It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And when I got that news, I told him the company's talent said, I already know them. I've sold them their last 2 companies, both people. And they are the big 5 on TV. I won't name the names, but you see them on TV.
Right.
Once I got out of that, I spent the whole month of November, middle of December. He sold my business. He worked out and got me a hell of a price because I had 38,000 customers and 900 service agreements and, 5 techs, and the company was strong.
Okay.
The EBITDA wasn't that strong, but the company sold it. So we got a lot more than anticipated.
Okay.
And through his negotiating skills, which I was a part of, I couldn't add to it because I couldn't talk. My throat was still closed and stuff. And then once we did the deal, so I was talking about healing. 23 was the strong healing year. 24, I was still healing. And all the time, Talon and Lisa have now become family friends. And 25, end of 24, he said, Russ, come and work for me. He said, you know my process. You've been through it. Mm-hmm. He says, you've no business because you've been in business for 40 years. I don't have to teach you nothing there. And he said, it'll be an easy introduction into taking it a bit easy and kind of ramp up. So I said, yes.
Okay.
I said, I wanted to start something new. I was still too energetic at my age to sit down and watch TV and tirivate around the yard. I'm not there yet. Mm-hmm. Although I'm 68, I'm still not there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I took it on. I think between them and my wife, they didn't think I was going to be hitting it as hard as I am, but I enjoy it. Right. Because I'm back to being with people every day. I go to a network chapter, different chapter, most every day. Yeah. I have a few, 2 or 3 face-to-faces every day, and I go to the mixes at least 2 a week. Yeah. You have to build the relationships, and that's 2-step. And this is where I told you the part in my life where I know about master networks. Mm-hmm. They have 40 plus chapters, so you can join them and you can run amok.
Yeah.
And as you know, we see each other out a lot. Mm-hmm. We see each other at different chapters a lot. You and I are building the relationship that it requires, that when you're talking to your client about your business and he happens to say, man, I think I want to exit in a couple of years, I need to come straight to your mind.
Right.
You need to talk to my friend Russell. He works with ATK Ventures, and they work with people like you. Because we're not just want to sell, we want to work with these clients, and we get them ready, just like Talon told me. Right now is not the time, but in your 3 years, we can get there. And that's what we want to do.
There you go. All right. So right now, what are you doing at ATK Ventures? Like, what is?
So I'm a business development associate. That's my official title. And I'm going to master network chapters. I go to a different one most every day, 4 days of the week. Fridays I try to have off. My wife is off from work, and I try to spend it with her. But if she happens to say, hey, I've got a hair appointment today, I'm gone out the door to a network chapter. Right. So yes, and I do a fair good amount of face-to-faces. Mm-hmm. And I'm building relationships. I go to at least 2 of the mixes because that's where you can really talk to somebody. Okay. You're not, under a time limit, and you can talk to 2 or 3 different people and spend 20 minutes with them. It's like golf, Right. If you take a client, golf him, you've got him for 4 hours. Right. That's the other. You can't go to his office and get 4 hours.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm bringing customers, clients, to Talon, but not only for business sales. I'm bringing him coaching people, AI people, network people. These are all support to what we do, because if we get a customer that needs some internet work done, we can offer up 2 or 3, and we're actually starting to build a page now for for preferred vendors, and we're going to have a list of the vendors that I'm bringing in. He's been in business 12, 14 years, so he has a lot of these people already.
Right.
But I'm trying to introduce my master network folks that I've
Build
got relationships with.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And put them on a list. So when people go to our website, atk-ventures.com, they can see a vendors list there, preferred vendors that we would recommend. Yeah.
Okay. And so one thing I know we've had conversations in the past where you mentioned that you're close to like landing some new deals with ATK Ventures, and it's a cycle. It's a sales cycle. Yeah.
It's filling. He put it. It's filling a pipeline.
Filling a pipeline.
Well, he said take over a year, generally. But I have 2 companies on the go. One closes in 2 weeks, and one's right behind it. I'm very fortunate to get it this quick. But those are friends that have heard I'm in the business, and 9 months ago we started talking, and it's taken, I think, 5 months or so to get it to where it is. They're not easy. It is a process, but it's a process. If you are a legacy business owner, 5, 7, 10 years in business, which means your business is somewhat solid, you need to know where you stand. And that is, do you have to sell tomorrow? Can you, if you have to? This is one that had to, and I wasn't ready. And so if you know where you stand, you can sell tomorrow, no big problem. Fine, but if you don't, this is where we can come in and we can help you. We can get you, whether you want to exit in 2 years, we can give you a great exit strategy, and we'll work with you.
And you said something about you don't pay for that service until you exit.
That's another thing. Most big box brokers, I believe, they charge you to give you an opinion evaluation. Well, we don't. We invest. We are a success fee-based company, which means we will collect our fee to sell your business when we sell it. All the work we do in between, the opinion evaluations, the amount of information, very good information, is all no cost, complimentary.
Okay.
We want to build you to where we can get maximum value with minimal stress. We do all the work.
And this information is confidential, like, because you're dealing with like P&L.
Once you engage the first conversation with me at the face-to-face, we're already, it's confidential. When you do the discovery call, confidential. Any information between us and you is all confidential. And one other thing is, you are in the driver's seat. If we bring 2 qualified buyers to you, you will meet both buyers. You'll decide which buyer that you prefer and would like to buy your company. And if you didn't like either one, we go. And if you said, hey guys, thanks for the ride, but I'm out of here, you're free to go with no strings, no money owed, nothing.
There you go. Well,
we're a boutique. We're something that it's hard to pass up.
Right. Okay. Well, so, wow, that's a lot. But one of the things, I admire about you, Russell, is that you've had feels like multiple life adventures and experiences, and what, from a business standpoint, right? I mean, you've shown a lot of resilience, but you haven't shied away. There's a lot of people that's talking about trying to make things complicated, with growing the business. And you've done an HVAC business successfully, and now you are a successful business.
I am striving to be that. Right. I've given them my mark where I want to be in 2 years. It's not going to be easy, but that's my challenge. And and for me, it needs to be simple. I'm not interested in the business side of it with Talon, because I've done that. It's his business. But mine, it's got to be simple. I need to have conversations with you. I need to gain your trust, and I think I can do that. And he says, the one thing I've got going for me is I have an accent.
Right, there you go.
So I said, well, I'm going to maybe use that if I can.
Do what you
But,
got to do.
I wasn't blessed with Brad Pitt looks, so I've got what he doesn't have. He doesn't have an accent.
There you go. And kind of closing, I think you embody three things, that I believe in, from a business standpoint. Visibility foundation. You're very visible here in the DFW networking scene, right? You have authority. Being somebody that's been in business for decades and you've been able to pivot and use that expertise and turn into authority. And you have systems, because
Yep.
even if just from a networking standpoint, Russ, like you mentioned, you have a system of people that you're going to meet, places that you're going to go, and you're consistent with it, and it's delivering results.
I hope that's true to me, because it's what I'm looking at to strive to be.
Right.
That's what I want to be.
All right. Well, Russ, I want to thank you for your time. This has
Thank you
been
very
phenomenal.
much,
All
Brent.
right,
I
fellas.
appreciate your time and the opportunity to let kind of people know a little bit about me and a little bit about ATK Ventures.
All right, and all information about ATK Ventures is going to be in our show notes, social media, the website, a little bit more about them. I want to thank our followers and founders, so they get to learn more about how to scale up their business, because I believe that marketing should take you from guessing to growing. Thanks.
Thank you. I did one other post thing.